Hey guys, my name is CJ. This is the S24 Ultra and I've been using it pretty solidly for the last couple of months and I can't get enough of it. Let's take a look. Well, this is going to get as close as to a straight up promo video for the S24 Ultra as I've ever done. And that's because it deserves praise. And before all of you jump straight into the comments section, this video is not sponsored. I bought this with my own money and honestly these are my genuine thoughts. So straight up, this phone is going to take some beating in 2024 as there aren't any real downsides. Now for balance, of course there are some issues that will stop some people from buying it. And we'll cover that later on, but if you're watching this video because you're even slightly interested in buying it, stop right now, go get it, just do it. You won't regret it, just go and do it. But let's talk about this phone and how it's been over these last few months. The S24 Ultra overall looks pretty much the same as the S23, but it is made from titanium and it does have a flat screen. Two big positive changes because one, I think the flat screen is great because I think curved screens are dated and should just stay in the past. But that titanium also means you get this nice muted color to it and I love it. It's still got that matte finish on the sides and that satin finish on the back is probably the most fingerprint resistant glass that I've used for a while. Now the flat surfaces on the top and bottom are still here, so it's great standing up on its own, even with that little bit of an S Pen sticking slightly out from the bottom. And when you combine it with those two curved side rails, it just gives it a really unique look that I love and helps it stand out compared to the competition. It's quite beefy, it sits massively in the hand, and it means business, and I love that. Then when you turn the screen on, you've got that all-encompassing 6.8-inch flat Quad HD 120Hz LTPO Super AMOLED display. And that transported me into the future despite it being the present. You've also got that perfectly even super thin bezels all around the sides and it just looks great. You've got that tiny selfie camera hole right at the top there and it does a great job of just getting out of the way given how much the screen just dwarfs it, so you never notice it. Then combine that screen with its stereo speakers and it's an absolute beast when it comes to content consumption. It gets super loud, and it still retains a lot of clarity and depth at all but the loudest levels. It's been so great for watching YouTube, Netflix, and of course playing games, and it does that for ages thanks to that 5000 mAh battery. You're going to be consuming content longer than most other flagship phones on the market right now. Which is weird because the size hasn't actually changed a great deal compared to the S23, which was also 5000 milliamps. But the screen on time I've been getting from the S24 Ultra has been nothing short of brilliant. I get on average 7 hours of screen on time with heavy internet use, social media, YouTube watching, gaming, all that sort of stuff. And there's not been a single day that I've been caught without, and I could very realistically not charge my phone overnight and still have more than enough juice to last for about a half a day. And then if you did need to charge it, or if you've got a fast enough power brick, then you can charge the S24 Ultra in no time at all. Or if you prefer the more casual route of wireless charging, then you still have a maximum of 15 watts, which is still all you need if you're just popping it on throughout your workday or just before you go to bed. But what I am a little disappointed in Samsung for though, was that it didn't adopt Qi 2, which is the new standard that basically brings MagSafe to all Android phones. Kind of a shame knowing how useful it is with iPhones, and actually kind of weird considering Samsung's track record of being one of the first to bring new features. Kind of like that in-screen ultrasonic fingerprint sensor here, which is again here in the Ultra, and I could be going a little crazy, but I think it feels even faster this year. So it's super accurate, and because it's an ultrasonic sensor, it still works in all lighting conditions without having to light up the phone itself, unlike modern optical sensors. And of course, using the phone itself has been an absolute breeze because unlike other markets and models in the S24 series, this Ultra version, at least in Australia, gets the Snapdragon Gen 3 chip. And this thing absolutely flies. Combined with that 240Hz response rate and 120Hz refresh rate of the screen, the S24 Ultra is smooth as butter and is some of the nicest UI experiences I've had from any smartphone, at least from a UX perspective. Animations are smooth, snappy, and responsive, and it's probably as close as you'll get to an iPhone in terms of fluidity. And this is coupled with a really nice, solid and tight haptic motor where every little tap and vibration is individual and feels so satisfying. Honestly, having really good haptics is so important to make your device feel just that more premium. Then you've also got 12 gigs of RAM, so multitasking is a breeze, and that larger screen means it's actually somewhat reasonable to have two windows side by side. And if you need more space, well, you've got that USB-C connection to give you DeX capability if you need that more space, and that power inside makes it a really great device for productivity. Right now, it runs Samsung's One UI 6.1, which is powered by Android 14, and it'll probably get Android 15 relatively soon. It's come a long way from its previous bloatware beginnings. Now, if you've ever used a modern Galaxy in the last couple of years, then the software experience isn't actually anything groundbreaking. It's actually pretty reliable, if not boring. And because of that, I've swapped out my launcher for a more streamlined, one-hand friendly experience with the Niagara launcher, and I think this is the perfect phone for this kind of experience. In any case, the overall software experience, like most new Androids and Pixels, is augmented and packed to the gills with new AI features. Now, admittedly, for a lot of these features, you're going to need to use Samsung's own apps, so if having to use Samsung's browser, for example, is a bit of a deal breaker, then these features will be less relevant to you. So for example, with the internet browser, there's a browsing assist feature that helps summarize long pages and articles into easy to understand, succinct bullet points. So it's really useful for people who don't have the time to read huge news articles, but you can only use that with Samsung's own browser. Or you've also got writing assist. So that can help you type messages in a certain tone or help you translate text from other languages. But again, the kicker is that you need to use Samsung's native keyboard app. And this story extends to all around the UI. So whether or not all of these features will be useful to you actually depends on how okay you are with actually using Samsung's apps. Now, there's nothing inherently wrong with any of Samsung's offerings, and in actual fact, they all work really well. But it does break up the seamless usability of just syncing Google services across all of your devices. Now, ultimately, there's only a few Google-centric features that are baked in, and in fact, the S24 was the first to debut Google's new Circle to Search feature, which is one of the better features to come to Android in recent years. So with just a tap and hold, you can circle anything on the screen in front of you to do a contextual Google search. And as mentioned in my previous Pixel 8 Pro video, link up here or down here, it's pretty damn accurate and pretty quick too. So if you want to find out more about that, go check out my Pixel video. But on top of this though, the S24 Ultra also has generative AI features built into its gallery app, which is again, kind of like Google's Magic Eraser tool, which you can use AI to remove objects from the background or from the photos, or move things around the photos themselves. And in my experience, it does a reasonable job of selecting these subjects and objects with pretty clean lines, but you should only really move these objects short distances and in scenes that don't have a lot of fine detail, because it does sometimes struggle to anticipate where those details lie. On top of that, this feature requires an internet connection to use, so you at least know straight away that part of the processing is done via the cloud and not on the phone itself. And because it needs the internet, it isn't the quickest process in the world either. That being said though, when it works pretty well. And in casual situations where, I've been sending it to friends and family, I've been more than happy with those results. For more complicated situations though, obviously Photoshop is going to be the best, but for on-the-fly, easy edits, to have access to something like this pretty easily is really amazing, even if it is 2024. And the AI photo features don't end there. Another low-key useful tool that I've come across is the new AI video slow motion feature. So you just tap and hold any video on the phone regardless of whether or not it was shot in slow motion. The phone will analyze all the scenes and details and give you a slow motion version of it, inserting extra frames in the middle. And just like Circle to Search, it actually works pretty damn well. Now you definitely see some of the AI artifacting in high energy, high intensity movement videos like seeing your dog run around, but for how quick and easy it works, I think it's pretty impressive. And in terms of how useful it is, well, that'll depend on the person. But it is kind of cool to know that if anything does happen, like an accident or something funny, you could at least go back and use AI to slow things down with just a tap. and the fact that it's so easy to use makes it pretty amazing. So AI features aside, the phone packs basically all you need in 2024 to make your life more convenient. Things like Interpreter will be hugely useful if you're a keen traveler, and if you're a keen note user, then you've still got the S Pen. Combined with that Notes app, it can help you auto-format quick notes that you jot down, whether it's a to-do list, a shopping list, or just brainstorming ideas for a YouTube video, for example. Now, I've been using it that way to write little notes down when inspiration hits during the day, and it's just been great to be able to jot that down and then open the app and it'll all be sort of auto-formatted nicely for you. And the only complaint I have with the S Pen though is its position on the phone physically. Sitting on the left of the phone just makes it that slightly more awkward to get out unless you're left-handed. But anyway, let's talk about what's not awkward, the cameras. Because these cameras are fantastic. Honestly, we are so spoilt for choice in 2024 that there's not really any bad camera systems out there when you're talking about flagships. I guarantee you that any phone you buy today that's in the flagship range is going to have excellent cameras in pretty much all scenarios, except for maybe perhaps absolute pitch black settings, or if you wanted to shoot astrophotography. That being said, if you wanted that, you've probably got a dedicated camera anyway. And all of this is especially true for both your standard and ultra-wide lenses. You really can't go wrong. Even in low light nowadays, the ultra-wide can utilize the phone's night mode and it'll still look pretty great, especially if you compare it to what a phone could do even just a few years ago before night mode became really popular. The main differences nowadays really lie with the overall quality of the telephoto lenses and how much they provide. And that is plural, because there's not one, but two telephoto lenses on this bad boy. You've got that 3x telephoto zoom on a 10 megapixel sensor, and also a native 5x telephoto zoom on a whopping 50 megapixel sensor. Now, the reason the tighter zoom has a higher pixel count is kind of similar to what iPhone is doing with the 2x zoom. Kind of clever, but basically it means that they can brag about having 6 different effective focal lengths, or 7 if you count the 100x space zoom. So the main sensor has a 100 megapixel sensor, and because of that, it does a lossless 2x zoom, which crops out the middle portion of the sensor for a 12 megapixel photo. Then that 50 megapixel sensor, you can do a similar lossless 10x zoom. So it's a bit of a sneaky tactic, but I think it works. Because I've been using it to take photos of my dog whilst he's been frolicking at the dog park, and that's never been easier or convenient. And of course, whilst having native lenses for those 2 focal lengths would be really nice, I think this compromise really works. Of course, you're not going to print any of these photos into massive pictures and hang them on the wall. I mean, you can, but I wouldn't. But for the purposes of using these photos, which are typically going to be sharing them with friends and family on social media or on WhatsApp, it's going to be more than enough. Photos taken at these focal lengths are sharp, they're detailed, and honestly, comparing them with native lenses, I don't think there's an overly obvious drop-off in terms of quality. Now, definitely you're going to see better quality when shooting in broad daylight, but even in lower light evening photos shot indoors, they're actually still pretty good. And I think that says more about how good computational photography has become rather than the hardware itself. Now, overall, the camera UI is clean, it's simple but intuitive, and the photo taking experience is just a smooth, hassle-free experience, and with even things like changing focal lengths. You can either swipe the screen or tap the individual focal lengths, and it might be my imagination, but the transitioning between focal lengths I think has been hugely smoothed out now. The animations are smooth, and the actual footage of this in videos shows how smooth it is as well. And speaking of video, I would happily take the S24 Ultra's cameras for videography, despite it not being necessarily on the top of the list like iPhones are. It shoots excellent 4K video, and honestly boasts one of the best implementations of motion reduction I've seen on any smartphone. So it's going to be great to track things like your children or your dogs or cats, and then watching the footage back won't cause you to vomit. And what also may or may not cause you to vomit is looking at yourself in Selfie Camera. And regardless of whether or not you enjoy looking at your own face, you can at least be comfortable with the fact that the S24 Ultra selfie lens is as good as they come at the moment. Now, details can look slightly over-processed or sharp, but the general look and feel of selfie photos has been pretty good. And it helps that it autofocuses and the camera itself is incredibly inconspicuous. Honestly, overall, the S24 Ultra has been an absolute joy to use over the last few months. With daily, consistent use, it hasn't skipped a beat at all, It's aging excellently, and size aside, where some people might prefer smaller phones, I can't fault the phone, and you can be guaranteed that it'll be covered by Samsung for at least 5 years of security updates too. Now sure, its price is pretty damn high at 2,000 Australian dollars for the 256 gig model, but that's not too different to the equivalent iPhone or Pixel models that are currently out. And on top of this, Samsung phones have quite a track record of going quickly on sale throughout various promos during the year. Give it a few weeks or a few months, and you'll probably stumble onto a deal taking anywhere between 10 to 30% off the original price. And when that happens, honestly, whichever way you look at it, you can't beat the 24 Ultra in terms of value. Unless, of course, you only wanted iOS. But for everyone else, this is the phone to beat in 2024. What do you guys think? Is the S24 Ultra worth it in your eyes? Let me know why or why not in the comment section below. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, give us a like, subscribe for more, click the bell icon so you don't miss out. Stay safe out there, and I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers.